incredible partners in this work, and their leadership has been transformational. Director Velasquez for his leadership at the California Department of Housing and Community Development, because like I mentioned, this is round 3 for us, so we've received encampment resolution funding 1, 2, and 3. And our local CBO partners responsible for supporting us, as well as our system partners with Contra Costa Health and Supervisor Joya, and of course, our local Richmond Community Development Director, Lena Velasco. We are extremely excited because this is our 3rd Encampment Resolution Fund award. Richmond has worked hard and reduced our unhoused population by 25% in the last year, according to the 2024 Contra Costa County point in time count. We are focused on continuing improvements and implementing promises and practices in this work, which is absolutely challenging and extremely rewarding. The learnings associated with our work have informed our application in this most recent award. More specifically, this award will support a whole person approach, which includes a focus on reducing health disparities and increasing health outcomes by targeted interventions around adult literacy, income development, vocational training, and job placement. Our Department of Employment and Training, which is a key leader in job placement and employment development, is going to be integral in this work in ensuring that we create career pathways for our unhoused residents. ERF funds are also being coupled with a $14.5 million Home Key project for permanent supportive housing in our Richmond community. This is leading to significant changes, not only for our unhoused residents and community at large, but also we're significantly changing the built environment to make it more aesthetically pleasing for all of the residents in our community. Thank you again, Governor, for your leadership. Again, we are grateful for this investment and are committed to ensuring its success by continuing to work hard in Richmond. And now I would like to introduce another local partner that is receiving an award today, Jeff Van Wagenen with Riverside County. Thank you.
Thank you, Shasha. Good morning. And thank you, Governor Newsom and Director Velasquez, for your continued support in helping unsheltered residents across California and specifically here in Riverside County. Riverside County spans 7,300 square miles and is home to more than 2.5 million residents and growing. Like many, we are facing a range of challenges when it comes to homelessness. Each of our regional communities has unique needs, and thanks to the state's encampment resolution funding, we were able to address these challenges locally and therefore more effectively. We are honored to receive this $12.6 million in state funding to support our efforts in resolving encampments along the Murrieta Creek Trail. This is a 12-mile stretch that is a key focus for us in the southwest portion of our county. This funding will help us connect unsheltered residents with affordable housing and the wraparound services they need to permanently exit homelessness. And we are proud that this is the 3rd such award we have received from the state, each one allowing us to serve a different geographic region. We believe, and the folks in our Housing and Workforce Solutions Department that are our lead in the application, believe that the continued support from the state is proof that our innovative, collaborative, and coordinated response is working. Our past efforts under the Encampment Resolution Funding Program have shown that more than 85% of those we serve remain housed for more than 3 years. Under the local leadership of our County Board of Supervisors, and specifically Supervisors Chuck Washington and Karen Spiegel for this Murrieta Creek Trail project, a multidisciplinary team representing our Health and Human Services, Public Works and Community Services, and Public Safety departments is working closely with the cities of Lake Elsinore, Murrieta, and Wildomar, along with other partners in our Regional Homeless Alliance, to create a pathway to housing and stability for our residents. While this award of $12.6 million is significant and deeply appreciated, we all know it's not enough by itself. With these dollars, we will leverage other federal, state, local resources, including funds made available through our local continuum of care. This joint effort, which includes building more than 400 housing units, is a testament to the power of public, private, and nonprofit partnerships. We know that we have more work to do, and the state will absolutely hear from us as more funding becomes available. In fact, we've already started working with Director Velasquez to highlight our efforts and our needs in the Coachella Valley. Until then, Governor Newsom, thank you again for making these critical investments that will bring us closer to ending homelessness in Riverside County. Together, we are creating resilient, connected communities and ensuring that no one is left behind. It is now my privilege to introduce the Mayor of Sacramento, the Honorable Darrell Steinberg.
Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate that, and congratulations to both you and the City of Richmond for your awards. I want to thank Governor Newsom and Secretary Velasquez, Director Velasquez, for $18.2 million for the City of Sacramento to continue our 8-year effort to combat the crisis of unsheltered homelessness. Governor Newsom, every time I get the opportunity to speak about this issue, I want to say and need to say that I have worked with numerous governors over my 30-year public service career, and they've all been good governors and good leaders in their own right. This is the first and only governor to ever take on the issue of unsheltered homelessness. And there is little reward, oftentimes, for taking on the hardest of hard issues. And yet, when you look at the record here over these last 6 years, not just in the city of Sacramento, but across the state of California, his leadership has made this crisis better. Tens of thousands of lives have been saved, and communities are beginning to be safer and healthier as a result of not taking the easy road and backing off of an issue that, by definition, is hard to absolutely solve. But the real test is whether or not we are making progress, and we are making great progress. Here in the city of Sacramento, between 2022 and 2024, we experienced a 42% reduction in unsheltered homelessness, one of the largest reductions of any metropolitan area in the entire state of California. And it's because we got the help and the partnership, frankly, with the governor, the legislature, and the big city mayors to put forward more resources than we have ever seen before to do the basics, provide more capacity, more beds, more shelter, more permanent housing for people. And so this particular grant is due to the effort of our great city staff. I want to thank them. I want to thank Councilmember Sean Tao, and we focus on a particular area of the city in North Sacramento that is a lower income area, a proud and diverse part of our city, where the Northern Bikeway, as we call it, has literally been taken over by tent encampments. And the people who live in those encampments are suffering, but so is the community that cannot use the bikeway for its intended purpose. We've already begun to clean it up, and we have built a 100-trailer and pallet home facility off of Roseville Road, very close to the Northern Bikeway. This grant is going to enable us to double the size of the Roseville Road pallet home site. And it's going to allow us as well that's $12 million, with an additional $6 million to actually help another 100 people who are living in encampments go straight to permanent housing for those who are ready. Governor Newsom is proving again that homelessness need not be hopelessness if we do the right thing. He's put forward the money. He's right to hold us all accountable. And in many of our communities throughout California, we are delivering and delivering big time. But the work is far from done. As long as there are people who are suffering and living on the streets, as long as our communities are suffering, our business corridors and our neighborhoods are suffering from having to live with an unsafe and unhealthy set of conditions, we continue to have work to do, and there's more opportunity. Proposition 1, which I was proud to support, Governor Newsom's initiative to modernize the law that I authored back in 2004, the Mental Health Services Act. This is billions of dollars to focus on wraparound services, to focus on housing supports. You combine that with these resources from the Encampment Engagement Grant, and we're going to show even greater results than a 42% reduction in the city and county of Sacramento. So as I exit public office here, at least the job as mayor of Sacramento, I'm proud that we've worked in partnership to lay this foundation with the governor. But let's keep going, because the people of California deserve it. And we're proving that the concept works. You house people, you ask people to make a real choice, you provide them with the services, that this can be much better, and it's getting better. And with that, I turn it over to the person who has not been afraid to lean in and to demand better for California, my friend, Governor Gavin Newsom.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for your generous words. I'll circle back and express my appreciation more substantively to you in a moment. I just want to thank Gustavo for his leadership and our department and agency directors. I want to thank you, Sasha, for your hard work and your support going back years, and demonstrably the applications are scrutinized. We don't just hand this money out without looking at results. Richmond, you've proven to create real results. Same with Jeff. Jeff, we were talking offline before everybody got on. I want to just thank folks in Riverside. Jeff and his team have done an outstanding job. The city and the county, in partnerships with the state and our federal partners as well, have produced real results. And of course, back to you, Mayor, thank you for your partnership, your stewardship, your faith and devotion to this cause, your commitment to accountability, transparency, your commitment to comprehensive strategies well beyond the announcement here today to address the underlying issues that lead to such stress and lead to such a profound and consequential challenge that continues to face us. Thank you for your commitment in this space. Let me just go back a little bit, and I'll follow up where Gustavo left off. I've got some slides here. I'm trying to flip them. There we go. Get them back here so we can get a sort of reinforce the sense of where we are and where we're going. We have $130.7 million that we're announcing here today, as Gustavo said, and what we refer to as encampment resolution funds. And I think it's important to underscore that these are funds and grants that go through an application process. And as I was noting just a moment ago, are scrutinized by a team of folks, because the money does not materialize unless communities like these 12 cities specifically that are receiving these funds provide ample evidence of the support they will provide to individuals that will be impacted and or displaced by the removal of encampments. This application requires, with a housing first mindset, that support is provided. Jeff made a comment that I hope everybody heard. 85% of those that have been supported through this effort over a 3-year period are still getting the benefits of those supports today, which is incredibly important. This is not about moving out of mind, out of sight, out of mind. It's not just about moving people along. It's about trying to address, again, the underlying issues. Encampment resolution funds that are being distributed to these 12 cities, to these 6 counties and COCs. The counties you see referenced, City and County of San Francisco, San Bernardino, Riverside, and Contra Costa, and what we refer to as Continuum of Cares, which will also be receiving these grant funds. As Gustavo said, this is now a total of $737 million, $737 million that have gone out under the Encampment Resolution Program. It's a $1 billion program that now is including additional accountability measures. And I say additional accountability measures. In addition to the baseline requirements to receive the grants and the scrutiny that comes through the application process and the request for subsequent funds, we're adding additional accountability measures for cities and counties that now must follow all state housing and homeless laws and be in compliance with their housing element. Think about examples like Huntington Beach. Think of examples like Norwalk and some of the challenges that we're currently facing there. We want partners in this process. We don't want sparring partners. We want working partners. And what we are advancing here today is more resolve and more commitment from local government that if you play by the rules that are established, we want to provide carrots, not just sticks. But if you are unwilling to play by the rules, we're not going to provide new funds, and we will claw back funds as well. And that is across a spectrum of related funds that the state is providing or is willing to continue to provide. But if you're out of compliance, we're no longer interested in funding failure. We want to fund success. We want to fund resolve. We want to fund commitment. We want to fund communities like those we're highlighting here today. Again, this is part and parcel of $1 billion commitment. I want to thank the legislature. This was an idea 4 years ago or so that we put up about a $50 million pilot grant statewide. The state had never been involved in this in the past, as Daryl was saying. We put a $50 million grant specifically targeted to encampments. And by the way, cities and counties and CSCs can use money for encampments themselves. They have discretion through the HAP program, but this is specific additional dollars for encampments. We did a $50 million pilot. It was wildly oversubscribed. And we requested and worked with the legislature, and they've now provided, in the last few years, $1 billion in these funds. Again, $737 million, if you include the 130, will have been expended. Hundreds of millions remain to be distributed, and that process is unfolding in real time. Again, we did an executive order that was referenced in July. And since that executive order, to show more urgency, more resolve to remove encampments, I just wanted to put up what the state has done themselves. This is not what local government has done since then, but the state has held itself to a higher level of accountability, almost 1,000 encampments ourselves that we have removed, some high profile encampments. In fact, 43 that we would target as the most high profile all up and down the state of California. And you see a lot of debris that's been removed. We also have done this in partnership with that program that many of you are familiar with called Clean California. It's a beautification program. And this was an additional $1+ billion that the state was providing in cleaning up sites, beautifying sites, not just removing encampments, not removing debris and materials, but also beginning the process of revitalizing some areas as well. And since that effort, which launched in 2021, July, we have at the state level removed over 12,000 encampments, and you can see the amount of debris, 267,000 cubic yards of debris that has been removed. To give you some pictures, so you can see just some of the recent examples in Oakland, before and after shots. Here's one, Orange County, before and after. Still a little bit more work to do on beautification there and removing the graffiti on the after shot. Some efforts down in Pacheco and then in San Diego, where a lot of work has been done in partnership with the mayor down there as well. So we continue, San Jose as another example, to work in partnership with the cities and counties through funds, these grant programs, expectation of more accountability, which all of these three representatives are all about, which I'm grateful for. Stepped up now accountability as it relates to new funds that we're moving forward. Gustavo talked about the new housing and now homeless accountability unit. That housing accountability unit's produced results. Now incorporating the homelessness component, we expect to see similar results in terms of abiding by state rules and state laws. We're also looking to fundamentally address some of these jurisdictional issues as well. And this is the final point that I want to make on this topic. We're looking to build on something that we advanced with Mayor Bass in LA. We created the state's first, what we refer to as delegated maintenance agreement. And that was to address some of the frustration that they were having, we were having, candidly, and some of the regional agencies were having in Los Angeles around who's accountable, who's responsible. And rather than dealing with these jurisdictional barriers, particularly with the state and state right-of-ways and Caltrans properties, we decided to do a delegated maintenance agreement for capital programs and maintenance programs on state right-of-ways. And if the city wants to move and not wait for the state to do its job, the city can do that. And in return, we will reimburse their costs. So we have one of these delegated maintenance agreements in the state. It's proving some early success in LA. Now we want to build on that and provide this as a template for communities all up and down the state of California. Again, it's about removing these jurisdictional boundaries and removing the finger pointing. Thus, a little fun we had our team with these Spidey folks there in the cities and counties sort of representing the finger pointing that so often is the case as it relates to addressing this issue. So again, focus on what's out on the streets and sidewalks. This is not the homeless strategy for the state of California, quite the contrary. Heard Sasha talk about a home key. You heard from Daryl talking about the work we're doing on substance abuse and those that are struggling with behavioral health issues, and how we'll be flooding the zone on prevention money with some of the reforms on housing as it relates to the issues of homelessness, and having ongoing county money under the Mental Health Service Act reform under Proposition 1, and then the capital that is going out, billions and billions of dollars of these notice of funding availabilities referred to as NOFA under Prop 1, and the ongoing HAP money that the state has been providing. Never, ever in the history of the state have we provided more support. When I got here, there was none of these programs. There was no encampment resolution grants. There was no home key programs. We didn't have HAP that was funded at $1 billion a year. We weren't reforming the Mental Health Services Act and reforming our conservatorship programs and creating a new pathway as it relates to care court and other supports that we provided, unprecedented supports. And that's why in return, what we're asking for is a sense of urgency, a sense of resolve, and more important than anything else, we are demanding results. And again, I want to compliment Sasha, Jeff, and Daryl. They have been results oriented. They're proving, and you see numerically, the reductions in the communities represented in those that are unsheltered on the streets and sidewalks. We really want to target our efforts there on encampments as a top priority in the state and moving beyond the excuse to resolves. Final point, and we'll get to Q&A. Also want to announce, and this is about results, about transparency as well. We have a new website today. I'm personally excited about this. Forgive me for providing this slide as a final slide. A new ca.gov website on all of these issues and other issues, from small business issues, but also on homelessness and housing in the theme that we're providing. It's a new website the state just launched today. That old website we tossed, and I just want to thank our team, GovOps and our Department of Innovation, Digital Innovation. There's a lot of really exciting things there, tools in this toolkit of government, more transparency and more accountability in return with our own website as well. So I just wanted to close on that and the proverbial bear. But again, we are here not to bear exclusive responsibility, to share that responsibility up and down the state. I will close. It's the bingo card that my staff rolls their eyes every time I bring it up, but the state vision is realized at the local level. Localism is determinative in terms of our success. And the state's efforts only matters as far as local government participates in partnership with the state to advance our collective goals. We have highlighted 3 communities that are great partners, and we're grateful to them. We're grateful for the others that applied in the spirit of partnership and results, and we're honored to be able to distribute another $130+ million in this program. There's nothing else like it in the United States. We have governors that come from all over the country, National Governors Association, discussing this program, and it's producing real results. And again, it's about results with responsibility to address the underlying issues in the first place, and a lot of the anxiety people have about, well, what are you going to do with the folks that are struggling and suffering? Well, these grant programs, resolution grant programs, are a detailed and demonstrable example of what we propose to do and what local governments are committed to do. And that is the announcement today and why we're here. And we're grateful again for all of you for tuning in, and happy to take any questions you may have.
We'll now transition to the Q&A portion of the program. If you're a member of the media and you would like to ask a question, please click the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen and then unmute yourself when called upon. Once unmuted, please restate your name and outlet before asking your question. Thank you. And with that, our first question goes to Alex Michelson. Alex, please
Hi.
unmute yourself. There we
Hi,
go.
Governor Alex Michelson. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay. My first question is, what else is on the staff bingo card?
I think you may have had it on your bingo card as well.
A serious question, though. It's interesting who's on the list, and it's also interesting who's not on the list. LA County is not on the list, the biggest county in California. I know in the past, when we've talked, you've expressed your frustration with county leaders and their approach and hinted that something like this may be coming. I'm wondering if you can talk about why they're not on the list and the status of your negotiations with county leaders.
Well, those status are separate and above. This list is often inclusive and exclusive, meaning throughout this process over the course of the last number of years since we created this program, many counties apply, many counties are prioritized, others. LA County has received a disproportion. You look at the totality of the $737 million, and I'll provide you an update, but a disproportionate share has gone to LA City and LA County, as well as their COC. So they've been well resourced. It's not intentional. I wouldn't read between the lines as it relates to this $130 million in the applications. If they're excluded going forward, I would read between the lines, but I don't expect that to be the case in this respect, that these encampment resolution grants have proven successful. We're not playing politics with them, but nor have our local leaders played politics with them, because it is around accountability. They're more prescriptive. And frankly, this is, to your question, I think the spirit of your question, what I hope to see more of coming from the state. And I know this is not necessarily what local leaders want to hear. But when it comes to state dollars, again, where we flooded the zone, been unprecedented, the supports. And again, this has always been a county-led responsibility. It's always been local and city. As a former city elected official, I never looked to Arnold Schwarzenegger or Gray Davis to make these kind of announcements. I always took responsibility and accountability at the local level. That said, things have changed, and cities and counties cannot do it alone. They need the state. That's why we have stepped up. But in return, after a few years, particularly with the HAP money and others, I would preview, I am previewing, and I would anticipate you will see more prescriptive expectations as it relates to the accountability represented in the budget that I'll be submitting in January. Not just in this program, it exists, and it's a good model. I look to this as an example of what we can be doing in other areas in terms of providing support, but in return, something a little bit more targeted and more tangible in return. And again, I have a strong bias. It's hardly exclusive, but a strong bias to what's happening with tents and encampments on the street. We need to redemocratize our streets and do it in a compassionate way with our values intact, support the people that are out there and the underlying causes, but we need to take back the streets. And these encampment resolution grants are part of that, but we will stipulate other expectations in the budget that I'll submit in January.
Are things going better with LA County?
Things are going well in LA County. Things are going very well. I was just with Mayor Bass 2 days ago talking about her efforts in LA City. Again, she's a beneficiary of millions of dollars here today. The spirit that I expressed was one, I wasn't looking to cast aspersions or blame. What I was expressing 60 or so days ago, when we did that EO, was a sense of urgency above and beyond anything else, a sense of deep urgency. Flood the zone. Focus on this crisis that's been on the streets and sidewalks. Do not allow it to be normalized. Do not allow it to be excused. Everyone needs to be held to a higher level of accountability, a sense of urgency, an urgency that is required. And you've seen, we held ourselves to a higher level of accountability, 1,000 new encampments since we put out that EO coming from the state themselves, that reciprocal sense of partnership that was expressed in people saying, can we do what LA City did with these delegated maintenance agreements? And then this is the product of that, which we're announcing today, where that sense of urgency can take place without the approval of the state as it relates to state right-of-ways in a framework of reimbursement. No, I feel pretty good about some of the progress in the last few weeks.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Dustin Gardiner. Dustin, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Governor. Politico here. Thank you for taking our questions. I have a question for you about Norwalk specifically. I just got a comment from the mayor down there, Margarita Rios, in response to the action that your administration took earlier this week. And her argument is that communities like hers have suffered in the past when programs like Project Roomkey brought in a much larger homeless population. She said that raised a lot of public safety concerns in that community. So I'm just curious how you respond to that, and the idea that some communities can't handle the burden that homeless shelters or supportive housing might create locally.
Well, I think that is true, that there are communities that are sharing a disproportionate burden. I think that absolutely is correct, and that's exactly why everybody needs to be held to a higher level of accountability, not just some people. Ask the folks in Huntington Beach. Similarly, any community that is not participating in abiding by state rules and responsibilities, they're not committed to the housing element and arena goals, is with respect, part of the problem. And so I think that spirit is absolutely right. And we're going to hold everyone to a high level of accountability. I was a former mayor of a city that disproportionately bared that burden. And there were other communities that turned their back, like Norwalk, saying we're not going to do anymore. Everybody has a role and responsibility to play. And so I think in that spirit, this lawsuit we're about to file, going out of compliance, and they know they've broken the law. I mean, it's pretty crystal clear. I think wasn't anything in that comment that suggested otherwise. It said, we don't care, we're done. Well, that's not how it works. And with respect, a lot of law enforcement officers representing the people of Norwalk as well, they understand the rules of the road, and I hope they abide by them. If they don't, we all need to be held to account. But we're going to be aggressive, not just in Norwalk. It's not about Norwalk, in communities up and down this state, because everyone has a responsibility to share in improving the state of California. And again, not just Sacramento, not just Riverside, not just Richmond.
Our next question comes from Ethan Varian with the Bay Area News Group. Ethan, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Governor. Yeah, Ethan Varian, Bay Area News Group. I'm going to ask an off-topic question, so I hope you can bear with me here. It's my understanding that the school and climate bond measures that are on the ballot were sent there without your signature. And you've talked a lot about recently the need for the state to be fiscally responsible at this moment. So these are pretty large bonds. I'm just curious, do you support them? Should voters approve them?
Well, I'm here in my office, so I won't campaign, and I'll be coming out. I'll be candid with you, I haven't even had a chance to review in detail everything that's in front of the voters. You referenced 2 bonds. There are a number of other issues. We've been vocal on 1 or 2, specifically Prop 36 and another initiative that will increase the budget deficit in the state of California by $11.9 billion, which is jaw-dropping in and of itself, and the lack of accountability in relationship to the impacts of that initiative. But I'll be presenting at least my point of view at a more appropriate time and place.
Our next question comes from Travis Gilmore with Epoch Times. Travis, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Governor. Thank you for taking the question. Following up on Prop 36, there were 2 recent polls, one from the Public Policy Institute of California, another one just released from Berkeley, that show a significant number of Californians support Prop 36. If this passes, how will it impact homelessness, and what is your response to these polls?
Well, the public seems overwhelmingly supportive, and I appreciate that. I'm not naive. I knew that before it formally ended up on the ballot. So look, I understand where the public opinion is. Doesn't mean the whims of the majority should always express one's point of view. I've read it in detail. It's unfunded. It promotes a promise that is difficult to manifest and realize, which is treatment now on demand. 22 counties in this state, I'll remind everybody listening, 22 counties in the state have literally 0 residential treatment beds. This is a statewide initiative. They have 0 residential treatment beds. In the absence of a successful treatment plan, state jail is the backdrop, which comes at a cost of billions of dollars over the next decade. That's the LAO's assessment, not mine. Again, unfunded, not a dollar to fund new treatment programs. So I have a different point of view. Again, I don't want to get into the politics of a ballot initiative, but on the substance, I have a different point of view, but I'm not naive about the public opinion and the prevailing winds. And in many ways, I've sort of anticipated an outcome. I'm not a fatalist, but I've expressed my point of view. And if the people of the state of California want to move in this direction, bring us back to the 1980s, a war on drugs for nonviolent drug possession, and spend $120,000, $30,000 a year in state prison over other common sense strategies and solutions, that's certainly the will of the people, and we'll have to abide by it, just as I want Norwalk to abide by the rules and responsibilities that the state of California has advanced as well.
Our next question comes from Ashley Zavala with KCRA. Ashley, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Governor. Ashley Zavala with KCRA 3. When we regurgitate this information, I'm back on topic. When we regurgitate this information back to taxpayers and voters, I think maybe the reaction will be, more money out the door. And I enjoyed your Spider-Man slide there in the presentation with all the finger pointing. And I know this year, your administration has at least once shown up to homeless accountability hearings without information and data to prove how effective the money used in these scenarios are. I know you vetoed 2 measures that wanted more accountability out of your administration on the use of these funds. And I know you've cited legislation that's already directing your administration to do that. Can you guarantee that next year, as you formulate the budget, or whenever your administration might be asked for information on how these dollars are being used, can you guarantee that you'll be able to have the answers?
So Jeff, why don't you answer that question? Daryl, why don't you answer that question? Sasha, why don't you answer that question? And here's why. State vision realized at the local level. There were stipulations, expectations set out in the resolution grants. There's requirements at the local level. And there's now higher level of transparency and accountability based upon the announcement today. But we also have 3 great partners here that have produced results. You need an audit to express that. You can see those results for yourself, and you can see it on the basis of the data recently. But in any of you want to jump in? Appreciate it.
I mean, the best form of accountability is tying future funding to actual results. And that's what's happening here today. The recipients of this round of encampment engagement grants, including Sacramento, have actually delivered the kind of objective results, data, that that the governor has been calling for and that the public rightfully calls for. And so the money is already tied to accountability and result. And certainly with Proposition 1, which is, I think, the big opportunity here, as we approach 2026, which is when January 1, which is when the non-bond portion of the Behavioral Health Service Act goes into effect, all of that money ought to be tied to performance. In other words, not just the block grant to counties, the way that the old Mental Health Services Act worked, but actual incentivized pay for performance in a more meaningful way. And so I think today is an example of how to actually do accountability. You provide the money to the cities and the counties that are actually delivering the results.
And Jeff and Sasha, again, you guys, you filled out the applications. You and Jeff, you were specific. It's specific locations, specific investments with specific expectation of outcomes. Maybe you can amplify a little bit more about the benefits that you hope to see with these funds and the benefits you've seen in the previous encampment resolution funds.
Governor, thank you for that. I will say that the best example really for us moving forward is looking what we've done with the funds so far. The first round of funding we received was for the Santa Ana River Bottom, which is in the western portion of Riverside County. We collaborated with a number of our partner cities there. And to date, and the first funding we got was last year, beginning of last year. We've already housed more than 130 people and 50 more in the process currently of getting permanent supportive housing. And again, the numbers I've been sharing is that more than 85% are staying in housing for longer than 3 years. Additionally, what we're seeing is the downstream effect in terms of the number of people who are needing services. And we're seeing that number exponentially improve in terms of the fewer people coming in and requiring the services we get. We're also starting to see the needle move in our point in time count, and we're looking at the per capita ratio of the number of individuals that we identify in the point in time count. But Governor, like you said, the reality is we received money in the first round and we started to see results, and the state, based upon those results that we actually had to show proof of, has decided to fund additional rounds. Our San Jacinto area, which is in mid-county region, we've already begun and housed 20 people, and that is only a couple of months old, that particular program.
Well done. Sasha, anything you want to share?
Thank you, Governor. I appreciate the question. And this is extremely difficult work. It's really challenging, and we're committed to accountability. To us, accountability looks like providing complete wraparound services for those who are experiencing homelessness. So that starts with providing outreach, case management, housing navigation, income development is absolutely key, literacy, vocational training, and job placement to people, a large portion of whom are adjacent to freeway areas, our Richmond Parkway and our Richmond Greenway. And so we are experiencing high rents in the area, and we understand that in Richmond, even though we have 4,000 affordable housing units, that is not enough. So in addition to the Home Key project, we're continuing to push forward and develop additional affordable housing in our community, which we've also partnered with the state of California, the governor's office, and with Director Velasquez. And so through these complete wraparound services and continuing to increase the supply of affordable housing, as well as interventions on site for those that have experienced chronic homelessness, we know that we can continue to move the needle. We've reduced our unhoused population by 25% and look forward to continuing to have success with this latest award of $9.3 million.
Governor, can I be more specific? I'm sorry, in terms of the actual $18 million grant that you've awarded for Sacramento. It's going to enable us to do two things. Number one, to double the size of our Roseville Road campus that is in one of the most impacted areas of Sacramento, North Sacramento, to literally double the campus that has already been successful in navigating a lot of people off the street. Secondly, you've awarded us $6 million for the first in the state pilot program to help people who are living in encampments go directly to housing. And what you're offering specifically to us to grant us for 24 months of rental assistance so that people who are living in the encampments that are ready and that have more stability can go directly into housing. And so this is multiple approaches, helping people get to the temporary housing, the Roseville Road campus, but also bringing people directly from the streets, 100 people directly from the streets into housing with specific 24 months of rental assistance.
I appreciate that. And thank you all for illuminating and sharing that insight. Again, that's what makes this announcement so unique and distinctive. We're not just sending money to local government. We're sending money with expectations. They're sending us plans, and in return, they're receiving these grants. So it is about accountability. It's about transparency, and subsequent grant recommendations materialize only after we see the demonstrable success of the prior rounds as well. So again, in the spirit that we're bringing to our larger efforts now, it's around bringing this kind of accountability across many different funding streams, not just as it relates to encampment resolution grants, but again, a preview to January's budget more broadly.
Governor, we have time for just a few more questions. Our next question goes to Aton Wallace. Aton, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Izzy, and Mr. Governor and Mayor of Sacramento and everybody else. Madam City Manager from Richmond, thanks for taking the time. Hey, let me ask, I think really the mayor and the city manager did address a lot of my question here. So if it's repetitive, forgive me. I think I understand a lot of it, but let me just ask, I know there was some demonstrators who tried to get into the swing space last week frustrated about just encampment, what they call sweeps. They argue, at least there is an argument, that some people leave encampments and just go around the corner and form another one. What's your message there? And then Izzy, forgive me, I'm trying to keep it on topic here. So I know that Governor of Minnesota Tim Walz, vice presidential nominee, announced he's coming to California this weekend, next week. First of all, do you plan to campaign with him? But second of all, are you confident in the Harris-Walz plan to address homelessness, Mr. Governor? Thanks for the time.
Appreciate. I'll see Governor Walz next week, and we'll have more to share on that. And I'll be careful not to campaign again from my office for that ticket. But beyond that, look, I think the answer to the question that you posed is the answer resides in the announcement itself today, in what you heard from the three local representatives, what you heard from Gustavo as it relates to the framework of this program. Again, it's a novel program. It's one that didn't exist a few years ago. It's the kind of program we want to see built upon and replicated. And it's a kind of approach, again, that we're trying to advance across different funding streams. It's around transparency and it's around accountability. It's not around paperwork. It's not around finger pointing. It's around partnership. And again, the two components that I want to continue to reinforce is an elevated level of accountability as it relates to being in compliance with state housing element laws and impacts that will ultimately accrue, if you're not, to subsequent grant funds from the state, and the level of opportunity / accountability that can come from these designated maintenance agreements to address some of the ongoing struggles that we have around jurisdiction, and trying to level set on that and address the time that often impacts the timing, the slow process, the paperwork that often gets in the way of the kind of action that we want to see from local government by providing that maintenance agreement to local governments, and then in return providing a reimbursement for real results. So I think those that were expressing themselves last week, I didn't have a chance to see anyone in the office, but I will take you at your word. They were here expressing themselves. I think the encampment resolution grants will go a long way to answering those concerns.
Governor, time for two more questions. Noah with the Voice of OC, please unmute yourself.
Hi, it's Noah Bashadi from the Voice of OC. Thank you for taking questions. One thing I was curious about, there were a few other cities, obviously, who applied for this funding but didn't receive it. Will there be any effort to apply some of the strategies from Sacramento, from the County of Riverside, in those cities and others that have proven successful, so that these cities who aren't meeting the bar of receiving this funding can start implementing some of those strategies to address the homelessness problem?
Yeah, no, the answer is yes. Look, we want to fund success. We want to fund commitment. We want to fund resolve. And we want to fund those that have the spirit of urgency. And the question is, can we do everything? No. There's a sort of limitlessness in terms of that. But there is more resources that will be available. This is, again, one of multiple rounds of funding. A pilot program a few years ago at $50 million. We got about $350 million into the program, now $1 billion into the program. We've invested with these announced dollars today, $130.7 million will get us to $737 million total, which suggests there's still more money, more opportunity for those that were left out of this round. We'll continue to provide as much support and technical assistance to those that didn't receive these grants for other ongoing efforts. This is, again, a component part of our larger homeless strategy. And then we hope they're successful in the next round, again, based upon the scoring and the criteria that, again, is getting a little bit tightened with the new announcement we're making here today.
Governor, final question. We'll have time for Sophia Bolag with the San Francisco Chronicle. Sophia, please unmute yourself.
Hi, Governor. I wanted to ask about the situation at San Jose State, where other teams have been forfeiting games against their women's volleyball team after one of the players was outed as trans. I wanted to know, have you spoken with the leadership at San Jose State or at CSU, and what's your reaction to the other teams forfeiting games?
Sophia, I don't have enough insight and knowledge to be able to respond to you. I'll look more into the issue, but I have not had that opportunity.
Governor, I'll turn it back to you for any final remarks.
Right. Just gratitude again to Mayor Steinberg. Jeff, thank you, Sasha, for your leadership, a team, Gustavo, that have taken very serious the accountability components of these grants to those communities, cities, and counties and COCs that have been the recipients. Job well done. And now we want to see those results, and we'll do everything in our power to support you in those endeavors, in that endeavor. To those that were left out of this funding process on this round, as is the case, we have a few more rounds to go, and we'll get those dollars out. We hope those applications remain strong and keep them coming in. And we'll work with the legislature hopefully next year to consider improving upon this program and taking it to the next level. But we're certainly in closing taking the accountability to the next level, even with this successful program. And we look forward to the results of that as well. And finally, for those cities and counties out there that are interested in these designated maintenance agreements, contact Gustavo, contact the team. We want to get these up and operationalized. Take a look at what LA did. Again, Mayor Bass, thank you for your support with that first program, and thank you for successfully demonstrating that it can be replicated all across the state. With that, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you.